I'm live. All right. Let me turn off my speaker because I'm going to be loud. Because this, my friends, is my review, spoiler filled. So write it down, of the Thunderbolts. All right. First of all, I got my ticket this afternoon. I had the afternoon off work, had a couple appointments. Afterwards, I'm like, you know what? Let me go see what. Can you hear me now? There we go. Let me go see what time the Thunderbolts are playing. So they added a couple shows. I happened to find out that they had a 3:30 show at the Movie Tavern, my favorite place. And pardon, and it was the standard screen, which is perfectly fine for me, right? And I got in there, right, and there was only like 25 people in the theater. But before I went in, I was talking to the guy at the counter, and I asked him, right? And he said to me that last night, right, they had 7 showings, right, in 3 different formats. They have the 3D, they have the big screen, and then they have the standard, right? The big screen meaning like um the almost IMAX, okay? And if you ever go see an IMAX, right, just do me a favor. There's the ones that are full, huge IMAX, right? Then there are ones that are pretty big, bigger than a regular screen than a movie theater, right? So the one that I saw was one of the bigger screens. It wasn't the IMAX. The best IMAX, if you're in the Philadelphia area, go to King of Prussia. You're sitting there in that IMAX, and it's like you're sitting in a drive-in inside a house. But anyway, so 3:30 movie. There's only about 25 people in there, right? But the guy said last night all 7 shows were sold out till 2 in the morning. They had a midnight show. Now, I went in expecting, from everything I'm hearing about it, that this was going to be like the new Avengers, which it turned out to be. That's what I'm trying to say. But this is making sure that Marvel is back, and Marvel is friggin' back. Oh my God. This movie was, from the beginning to the end, it was great. You'll laugh, you'll cry, right? And then you'll be at the end of your seat a couple times going, I hope they make it out of this. And the thing is, like when you're watching these superhero movies, you think they're all going to make it out of it. And there's always that one. So, movie starts out, right? You got Yelena. She's in Malaysia or Singapore or someplace in Asia, right? And what she's doing a job for Val DeFontaine, and but she's feeling like she's empty, right? That she knows she has good in her. She wants to do good, right? And she's just doing these jobs for the money because she's got nothing, right? She's lonely. She's guilty, right? She's feeling guilty. She wants to make something of herself, right? She tells Elaine, it's the last job I'm going to do, right? And then I want to go straight, right? Of course, Val is like, oh, well, yeah, you want to see yourself on, People Magazine is a good blah, 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 right? Because Val is a master manipulator. She is so good. Louise Dreyfus, right? Like, hey, I mean, I remember her on Seinfeld. Everybody remembers, but I remember her on Saturday Night Live, right? And when she was on Saturday Night Live, she was not funny. I'm sorry, really early in her career, and she happened to be on SNL the years that they sucked. And back then, I watched it because I liked watching SNL. But anyway, right? So so she decides that she's going to go straight. She's going to do one more job, then she's going to go straight. So she goes back to America. She hunts her father down, right? She goes visit her dad. Now, Red Guardian. So Yelena is the heart of the movie, right? Red Guardian is the dad, right? And as I explain a little more, you're going to understand, right? He's the glue, right, that brings them all together. So she goes to see him, right, and she's talking to him, and he's acting like, oh, I'm doing really well, this, that, and the other thing, right? And then, Elena walks into his place, and his place looks like like a college frat house dorm room, right? I know, I lived in one, okay? And it just hit the, pizza boxes and beer cans and crap all over the place, right? So she goes to her dad and she's telling him, like, I feel unfulfilled. I want to do something more with my life. How do you feel? He's like, being, I feel great. I'm doing good. Then it comes out, right, that all he's doing is driving a limo, right? The Red Guardian limo service, right? Protecting your pleasure or whatever, something like that. Or protecting your good time or something. So, right, she's disappointed. She leaves. She's still lost. But she goes to do her final job. So she goes to do her final job, and it sort of looks like it's called the Vault, but it sort of looks like a Devil's Tower. You remember that from Close Encounters, right? Where she goes, right? It's a big kind of flat top mountain. She goes in there, right? She gets in there. She's hired to kill Ghost. Okay, so she gets in there, right? And she see her as she gets in. What's his name? A U.S. agent is in there, and U.S. agent job is to kill her, right? And then Taskmaster comes in, and her job is to kill him, is to kill U.S. agent, right? And then Ghost comes in, and it's her job to kill Taskmaster. So they're all fighting each other, right? And then they sort of realize, and then Ghost kills Taskmaster, right? So that's why you didn't see her in a chair, right? They didn't see her name on a chair for Doomsday. And it's okay because she was kind of a throwaway character anyway. I wasn't really into her. But Yelena felt horrible because she grew up with her and she knew about her, right? And she knew how she was manipulated, just like Yelena was manipulated, right? Ghost was, and God, not Captain America, U.S. agent was, right? Wyatt Russell, who is a great actor. He looks so much like his father. It's funny when Apple had the Monarch series, right? You had Wyatt playing the young guy, right, and then his dad, Kurt Russell, playing the old guy. My screen's waving. Anyway, so they end up trying to fight each other, right? And then they realize that, like, they have to work together. And then this guy comes walking out, right? Like, looking like a regular schmo, right? Wearing pajamas, barefoot. And they're like, who are you? He goes, my name's Bob. Okay, Bob, who are you? I'm just Bob. How'd you end up here? I have no idea how I ended up here. I was in Asia, and I took a nap, and I woke up here. And you guys are here. But the whole gist of it was, right, that he was supposed to get killed along with the rest of them. They were going to kill each other. So after they start the group together, right, they try to figure out a way out, right? Well, they took an elevator down to the bottom of this mountain, right? And as they're getting ready to get out, Val's like, you know what? Cancel them. Boop. And they hit a button and they start raising the heat, right, in this vault room they're in, right? So then Ghost's like, don't worry, I'll get out of here, right? She tries to sneak out, and she can't sneak out because they start having this really high-pitched thing, right, sound, which, sucks her powers and she's the only one that they all can hear it, but she can really hear it, and it's driving her nuts. So she can't sneak out. So what do, right? They figure out a way to get out, right? They get out, get into the elevator shaft, but the elevator's not working. Electricity's off. So what do? They have to climb out. And when you watch how they do it, it's hysterical. And the whole way up that they're climbing out, working together, right? They're kind of doing one of these things, back against the wall or back against each other, legs up against the wall, climbing, right? And they're arguing the whole time, okay? Now, every time that Bob touches somebody, right, they have a flashback about something horrible they did wrong, right? And I don't want to tell you because it's heartbreaking when you see Elena's, right? It's just as heartbreaking when you see U.S. Agent, right? And you you feel for them, and that's the way this movie works, right? You're seeing these five loners, right? Anti-heroes working together, okay? And the guy, and as they go through the void, right? The initial void where they're, you know, and Bob doesn't even know he's doing it, you know. They face their fears, and the thing is, they they have to confront their fears. You know what I mean? And it was hard when you saw U.S. Agent. It was heartbreaking, right? You saw Yelena. It was heartbreaking. It got me right here. It did, right? I got, so like I said, you'll laugh, you cry. Now there was a lot of like funny one-liners, right? Situational, wasn't too jokey. They were well placed zingers, right? And it pretty much, it just reminded me of like I played football for years. I played rugby, right? Everybody busting each other's chops, right? But doing it in a way that you're not totally insulting them, but you are, but you're kind of motivating them, right? And you're having them like, get your head out of your ass kind of thing, right? So they get out, and they get up to the top. Meanwhile, Val finds out that she didn't kill them all and sends in this ops team, okay? So they come out and they decide they have a plan, right? But of course, when you have a bunch of people who haven't really worked together, their plan falls apart. So that's kind of like, bull rush their way out. And, but then Bob comes out, right? And then Bob gets shot like a jillion times because Val wants them all dead, but she wants him dead the most, right? And then when Bob comes out, right, the Thunderbolts, right, they get dressed in the uniforms of Val's crew, right, who went in to get them, and they come walking out, right? And meanwhile, everybody shoots at Bob, right? They don't know that the bolts are or sneaking their way out. And then Bob stands up, and all of the bullets just fall off his body, right? And then, like, he starts to fly, doesn't realize he's doing it, As he does that, the bolts get into this Jeep, right? And they take off, right? As they take off, Bob gets all the way, and they're all shooting at him, and Bob's zapping the helicopters, right? And all this stuff as he's flying. And then, meanwhile, the bolts are taking off trying to leave. And then Bob, all of a sudden, comes back to normal, becomes Bob again, and then falls out of the sky. Bam! Huge hole in the ground, right? And so they're still in this armored vehicle taking off. And then what happens, right? They when Bob crashed, their vehicle fell over. They all came out, and they decide they have to sneak their way home. Val is more concerned about Bob. She gets Bob. They throw him in a container, right? And she's taking him to their new building. Ta-da! The old Avengers Tower, which is now the new Avengers Tower. But we'll get to that. So meanwhile, in the background, right, Val is getting impeached, right, for all her sneakiness, and then for the company she used to run, right, is kind of like Oscorp, like Luther Corp, that kind of thing, And they're going to get rid of her because of all this nasty stuff she's doing. Meanwhile, she cleans everything out. They can't find any evidence, right? And she moves to her new building, which is the Avengers Tower. So the Bolts decide, right, they're going to go to New York and they're going to get even, right? And who comes to save them, right, as they're walking through the desert, right? The Red Guardian in the Red Guardian limousine. And he's screaming, "I will save you," right? For a Russian who we were supposed to hate, right? And back when, he got the super soldier serum, back in the 50s, right? He was the Soviet version, right? And as Americans, we would have hated him. I love him. He is a great character, right? And like I said, he's the glue that brings them all together. Yelena's the heart. He's the glue. He gets them all in the car, and they're all thinking, at this point, they're thinking, we're just going to take off. We just want to go in hiding and stuff. And he's like, no, we are a team. We will get the better. We da 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 da. And then they start kidding around. Oh boy, let's talk about the teams we were on. And Yelena talks about the team that she was on, the Westchester Thunderbolts soccer team, right? They never won a game. And that's how they got the name the Thunderbolts. And I think it's hysterical because, where I live, there's Westchester in New York, there's Westchester in Connecticut, right? There's a Westchester in Ohio, right? Well, I live in Pennsylvania, and there's a Westchester, like, the next town over, right? So I thought it was kind of funny. So I'm looking to see if I can get some soccer jerseys made up that said a Westchester Thunderbolts and put a little asterisk at the end. I think that would be funny, right? Just Marvel, you're on my crap side because I didn't get tickets for the red carpet, but we'll talk about that. All right, so it turns out that they find out that Bucky is he's a U.S. representative, right, from Brooklyn, which just happens to be the district that the cemetery is in, that we do Cemetery Cinema Fun. Just kind of a nice wraparound, right? So they go to Avengers Tower, right? They go and they're trying to, like, break in, and Val's like, yo, guy, yo. I've been waiting for you. Get on the elevator. Come on up. So they go up in the elevator, right? And they come out, and Val is, I want you to meet my new friend, Sentry. And he comes down, and Bob has like 3 personalities now. There's Bob, there's Sentry, and there's the Void. Okay? And he can control not turning into Sentry or the Void. But once he becomes Sentry, he can't control whether he is the Sentry or the Void, which is going to be really, really good when they go into Doomsday, right? Whether he's going to work for Doctor Doom, or Doom's going to want to get him to come to work for him as the Void, right? Because that's going to be that's a plot twist. Russo brothers, right? If you use it, I want credit. So they go up there, right? And Sentry comes down, right? And she's introducing them, and they're like, Bob. And Bob's like, I'm no longer Bob. I'm Sentry. And she's calling him Robert. Well, Robert, I need you to dispose of these people. And then they all attack him, right? And meanwhile, Elaine is trying to talk to him, right, to bring him out. And then, he defeats them all, right? Throws them against the wall, out a window, right? They leave in shame, right? Because now they're like, all right, we need extra help. Meanwhile, Val starts, spurting orders to the Sentry, and the Sentry's like, nah. I'm a god, and I don't take orders from you. And then they start in a little spat, and then Sentry's eyes go black, and it becomes the Void. Well, the Void is, it's sort of metaphysical for all the voids we have in our life, and he had a void in his life. And that void was love, because his parents beat him. And his parents fought all the time. His father beat his mother. I'm telling you, if I could have got a hold of that ball, I would have beat the shit out of that dad. Never, ever, ever, ever hit a Valkyrie or Shield Maiden. Right? Anyway, they oh my God. Oh, so he becomes the Void, right? And as he's floating outside the Avengers Tower, right? And I didn't know the Empire State Building is like right across the street, which I thought was kind of cool. I didn't see it when I was in New York, and as he's floating up in the sky, as his shadow goes over people, they disappear, and it's got a big black shadow on the ground, right? And it starts off with this little girl, right, who Red Guardian saved, right? Now, meanwhile, right, the battle they had, things are falling down, from the tower, and a crane falls, and Sentry, right before he hits the void, zaps these two helicopters, and they come down, right? So the Thunderbolts, right, who were going to leave, they gave up. They worked together, and it was kind of just like, the Battle of New York, when all the ground level heroes were like helping the people and all that, right? Red Guardian, what a hero! I'm telling you, man, I can't wait to see him in other movies. Right now, granted, he's one of those heroes that wants to be known, wants to be liked. He's looking for how he was treated when he was Red Guardian over in the Soviet Union. So it's funny, in one of the fights he gets, he pulls out this like electronic whip, and it reminded me of Red Octopus. It was like the Vision, the Soviet version of the Vision, but he had whips coming out of his arms and all that. And I forget. I think it's Red Octopus. I'm not 100% sure, but he was another Soviet superhero, right? That he got out of control and he got frozen, and then Red Guardian came in. Backstory. Okay, so they save all these people, right? And then as they're standing there, right, and pretty much all of the stuff from the building stopped coming down. The void is pretty much just taking over the streets, and he's just sucking people up. So Yelena decides that she's going to go face him. So she walks into the void, and she has to face the worst thing she ever did again, right? And as you're watching it, right, you can actually feel how she's feeling, right? And she feels horrible, something she didn't want to do, right? And something that the people in the red room made her do, okay? And she's like, she's facing all this inside the void, facing the horrible things she did. Meanwhile, like Red Guardian's like, oh, my daughter, blah, 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 right? And Bucky and U.S. Agent, right? They're like, we can't go in there and all that. And then they're like, you know what? Like, I think we should, because we have to go in there and maybe we can get to Bob, because that's what Yelena was doing. So meanwhile, Yelena is in there, right? And she finds Bob, right? And Bob is living out like one of the worst things that could happen, right? Your parents are fighting, your mom's getting slapped, he's getting slapped around, he's freaking out, right? And it hurts when you watch it because you feel for the guy, right? And everybody knows somebody whose parents abused them. You know what I mean? You kind of feel. So it's another part of the movie that you get to feel. You're like, man, you want to beat the crap out of that guy. You feel bad for Bob. So now Bob has to face his fears. Meanwhile, she's talking to him. She's trying to get him to, like, hey, man, we can do better than this. This isn't real, blah, 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 right? The Thunderbolts all come popping in one by one by one, right? And when they went into the void, they had to face their worst things, their fears again. But they all found a way to get to Bob, because and you'll see how they do it, right? Because it just Bob image shows up everywhere. Okay, so they decide that that they're going to help Bob, and they got to help him snap out of it to get him back, right? And Bob, and they scene swap a couple times, and Bob ends up back in the lab in Malaysia with the bolts, and he sees Bob sees the void hop up out of a hospital bed, right? Where they're experimenting on him, and they tell him, he's telling Bob, like, Bob, you can't win, you can't fight me. I'm the embodiment of evil, kind of thing, and Bob, right, doesn't want to face his fears. He's done. He's like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And Yelena, like builds them up from confidence. Meanwhile, the Void is throwing shit at them and has them all locked up on the wall, right? And Bob has no help now, right? Because they're all bolted to the wall and tied up. Every time they try to talk to Bob, he like, the Void kind of like, hurts them more. And Bob realizes he has to face his fears. Goes up to the Void. And they have a little fight, and then Bob starts beating the crap left, right, bam, bam, and now like you're kind of feeling sorry for the Void because Bob is just going ape shit on him, right, beating the crap out of him. Meanwhile, the Void starts losing his concentration, right? The bolts get released. Elena was the first one. She ran over, right? And she's talking to him and she's hugging him like, Bob, you got to stop this, right? This isn't real, blah, 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 right? And it turns out, right, that that to beat the Void, right, Bob needed confidence and he needed love, all right? Don't laugh, right? So all the bolts come over, right, and they're holding them and they're like, Bob, calm down. They're pulling him off the Void. They pull him off the Void, bang, they're back in New York City, and the Void cloud starts to lift. People start popping back in. They're back, right? And the little girl who Red Guardian had saved, that got sucked up by the Void first, right? She pops back, right? And the Guardian goes over, and the Guardian's like, he's like, oh, thank God, right? You know what I mean? Everything's going to be good. They turn around, they're walking, and they're like, all right, we got to get Val down to D.C. and have her impeached and in jail. They turn around, they see Val, and Val's standing in front of this. At the time, when you're looking at it, this looks like a big wall, but it happens to be like a big curtain. So she's like, you're like, oh guys, right? And then she walks through the curtain to the other side, right? And the press is all there. And the bolts come out, and they're all set to like attack her, and they're like, "Oh crap! What the hell is this?" And Val goes, "Look at what we got. We have America's newest heroes. We call them the New Avengers, right?" And they're all kind of like, "Great, what's going on here?" Now they can't get her. She's the good guy. She saved New York, right? Because she got this group together. And Elena just walks up to her. Why, Val's on the podium and whispers in her ear and goes, "Oh, we own you now." And Val turns and looks at her, and she's going to say something smart. And she kind of just looks at her and shakes her head like, "Yep." And that's the end of the movie. But we go into 2 post-credit scenes, right? Spoiler review, I'm going to tell you. So the first post-credit scene is Red Guardian, right? He's, in his regular clothes, and he's in the Acme, the Walmart, the Giant, the Wegmans, Kroger, Publix, whatever it happens to be in your town. And he's like, "Look at this. Look at the Wheatie box. It is good for you and your family." And this lady's like standing there going, "Okay, weirdo." And he goes, "You should try." And he gives it to her, and he's holding the box up to his face, like, right? Like, do you recognize this person? Because on the box of Wheaties is all the Thunderbolts, right? And if you get a chance, and the movie Tavern didn't have it, but I was at King of Prussia a month ago, right? Their movie theater, they had, it was like literally like a 6-foot by 10-foot Wheaties box on the wall for you to get pictures in, right? And it wasn't just like a poster; it was actually a box, right? To get your picture in front of it. It was really cool looking, right? Then it goes to the second, and this is the post-credit scene. And let me tell you something, Marvel, I get it. You want to run the credits. You want to give everybody and their brother, right, credit for what they did, and they deserve it, right? Just speed it up a little bit, right? Because it literally ran for like 15, 20 minutes, right? And then they go to the final scene, right? So you have all the bolts right there in Avengers Tower now, and they come in, and Bucky tells them that Sam's pissed that they're using the Avengers name. He's suing them for copyright infringement. Like, Sam, you don't own the name. The government owns the name, but that's beside the point. Actually, probably Tony Stark owns the name. So I wonder if, what's her name? Pippin, whatever, his wife's name, right? I wonder if she owns it now, but that's beside the point. So they're sitting there going back and forth about this, and of course, Red Guardian comes up and he's got this suit on, right? He goes, "I got one for everybody," and it looks like a racing suit. It's got Tide, AM, PM, right? It's got Thunderbolts and the Wheaties look. I mean, he looked like a NASCAR driver, right? Because he's trying to market things, right? Because that's what he does. And he goes, "Don't worry, I can take care of this." And he has Thunderbolts with a Z, or Avengers with a Z at the end. They can't sue for that, right? And then Bucky's like, just shut up, right? And he goes, "I got uniform for you, even you, Bob," right? And Bob is sitting in a chair. He's relaxing because if he gets hyper, he'll become the Void. And he doesn't want to become Sentry because when he's Sentry, he can't control if he becomes the Void or not, right? And they get like a message, right? And Elena goes, "What is this message?" And Bucky's like, it's an emergency message. "Oh, it's something from space." So Bucky's like, "Well, why don't you put it up on the big screen?" She's like, "I'm going to put it up on the big screen." And then he goes, "Why don't you push that button?" All right, she pushes the button. It comes up on the big screen. And they go, "We have a warning. There is something entering from trans-dimensional space." And then they're all like, "Trans-dimensional space? What's that?" And Bucky's like, "Be quiet." And then you see this rocket come in, right? Very reminiscent if you've seen some of the previews for F4. And it comes through, and they're looking at it, right? And they're like, "What the heck is this?" And as the rocket comes through, it kind of turns a little bit, and you see the blue Fantastic Four logo. Right? Perfect setup for the Fantastic Four. Now, I give this movie a 10 out of 10, and I'm talking like is at the highest you can go below Endgame. Endgame to me is the top superhero movie of all time. Right? Only movie better than that of movies, right, is Rocky 1 and 2, right? Because to me, Rocky 1 and 2 is one long ass movie. Right? And, it's amazing. You will love it. Right? So if you take your girlfriend, she'll love it. There's girl power, right? You take your kids, they'll love it, right? Right? And guys, and they're like, in their 20s, take your old man. He'll love it, okay? Because this is a movie, right, that boomers, X, millennials, Zs, right, they will all love this movie because there's something in it for everybody, right? And that's what Marvel needs, right? Marvel needed a movie that not only appeals to nerds like me, right? I'm a Marvel nerd, I'm a superhero nerd, I'm a comic nerd, and I'm a movie geek, right? They needed a movie that could bring in new people, right? And still have the people from before, right? This movie is going to generate a lot of word of mouth, right? I think that 80% of the movie theaters will be sold out for the night movies, like the movies like after 6 throughout the weekend. If you get a chance, right, go see it tomorrow during the day, get a matinee movie, right? I went the matinee movies, and I went and got the senior ticket, even though I'm not like 65 yet. And, it's $10, right, for the matinee. You would pay $15 for a regular ticket for a matinee. If you really want to see it and you're on a budget, right, go see it at any movie tavern, right, or Marcus Theater, right, and there's one in every city, right, on Tuesday, right? On Tuesday, it's $6, and they get a free bucket of popcorn. It's like stealing, This is a must-see. If you're a Marvel fan, it's a must-see. You have to go see it. If you're a comic book fan of any type, Marvel, DC, Elseworlds, all that, you will love this movie because from the beginning of the movie, you have five separate people. When you get to the end of the movie, you have one team, and they didn't have to do. My nose itches. They didn't have to do a lot of character building, except for Bob, because pretty much all of them they had their characters built in their prior films. But if they didn't, right, and you don't know anything about them from other movies, you will, because they give you just enough information, right, to introduce the character to new people, right, and to push the plot along. And it was 2 hours of nonstop fun. I can't say anything more about it. You know what I mean? So, guys, just do me a favor, right? Go, head out, right? Go to the movies this weekend. Take your friend. Go by yourself. I went by myself, right? Because when I go to the movies, right, I want to go, and a lot of times I like going with Helga, right? Like going with my sons, but sometimes I want to go and I'm like just quiet, focused on the movie, and sucking it all in. Now, at the end of the movie, like I said, there was like 25 people in the movie. Guy sitting like 3 seats away. I go, yo, buddy, what'd you think? He's like, oh, I love this. I can't wait to see the Fantastic Four. He goes, I'm going to come back on Tuesday. I'm like, me too. And then I stood up and I looked around, right? And there's like 25 people. I go, yo, fellas, everybody, can I ask a question? They look at me like I'm 3/4 nuts, which I am. I said, I have a podcast. I just want an audience reaction. Every person there, right, said that they loved it. It was a great movie, right? And half of the people said they can't wait to see it again. There was one guy there with his son, and there was a lady there with her daughter, and she said, she goes, I had no interest in this movie, and I loved it. Her daughter she's a Marvel kid, right? And her daughter like loved it, and she was going on and on and on. But the other fella, right, he brought his son, and his son, right, the guy's probably in his 40s. Son was like probably 15, 16, right? I said, what'd you guys think, right? And they both said they loved it. And the father said, like, this is a movie that I can not only go with my son, he goes, I can't wait to bring my wife, right? Now, I would love to bring Helga, but it's a little bit over the top for her, right? She went and saw Captain America at Brave New World with me back in February for Valentine's Day. God bless that woman, right? And she was like, it was good. I said, oh, you want to see it again when it comes on? She's like, nah. You know? Now, it's funny, when I saw Captain America, right, I'll see it again. Actually, I think it's on Disney now, and I'll probably watch it a couple more times, right? But it's not something that I'm going to, like, make time for. But if I have nothing to do, I might pop it on. Thunderbolts is a movie that I will make time to see. So if I'm channel scanning, I see it on, right? It's not now, because, you know, I will watch it, okay? And do me a favor, right? What drives me nuts is, right, and you could see it out there on the web. Everybody goes and gets like a cam video of it, right? And the cam videos look horrible. First of all, don't do that, right? Because the people that do that, right, and I hate to be like this, right? Because millionaires are making millions, right? But with the movies nowadays, right, there's a lot of movies that are really good, but no one goes to see because they get them people stealing them and pirating them, you know. Now, if the movie's meh, right, and is out of the theater in 2 weeks, you know, it doesn't hurt anybody. Well, I don't know how to put it, but you know, don't watch this movie on a lesser quality, like TV, like you know, when people have the cam, and then other people they'll steal the feed, right, and it's, you know, it's blurry and all that. You don't want to watch it. You'll be wasting your time. And guys, you have plenty of things to do out there than waste your time watching a subpar quality version of this movie, right? So I got to get out. I got to head up to the cemetery where we're showing Creature of Destruction tonight, and the doc is back. His leg is healed, so I can't wait till we get there, right? And we have a couple good bits for tonight's movie. You'll enjoy it. But my recommendation, right? My recommendation is don't go see Thunderbolts tonight. Watch Cemetery Cinema at 8 on WON TV, Brooklyn, right? And it's nice to know that our congressman is Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier, White Wolf, whatever they're calling him nowadays. All right? I'm out, and I'm going to go finish my beverage and go do the show. Mad Darbarian, I'm out. See ya. And I got to do it. That's all, folks. All right. Now, how do I turn this off? Stop streaming. Sure you want to stop streaming? Yes. I bored your asses for half an hour.